This is a little bit of a different setting, as you guys can see, because usually when I'm in this position, I'm sitting here doing my podcast unstable with 𝒔𝒐𝒍🍐 sitting right next to me. But in light of everything that's been going on over the last 2 days, I made a little post on Instagram asking you guys, just as I always do. I made a question box on Instagram. Kind of saw it coming, but I didn't expect the overwhelming amount of people that wanted me to comment on the latest dressage scandal with a very, very well-known rider. People wanted me to discuss generally dressage as a whole, top sport as a whole, elite riders, all that kind of stuff. And I see that this is an important moment to have this conversation. And I've talked about this before, I'm always hesitant to comment about these things. And I think it's because I see that this is a very nuanced conversation in terms of we're in a digital era where everything is so accessible. There's opinions flying left, right, and center. Cancel culture is still so prominent, and everything seems to happen in a bang over 2 days, and people come to these extreme wordings and statements, and that always makes me hesitant to start to become part of the conversation. But even though I choose not to really share religious or political views and things like that, because I want this space to stay neutral and to be a space where people can come to and just enjoy and have fun and relax and unwind without feeling like they have an agenda pushed on them or anything like that. I do feel though like there is a responsibility for people that are in this space like myself, that get to experience two sides of it. Somewhat more of the professional side and that tight-knit inner circle, but also very much being someone who is an amateur rider. Even though I ride at somewhat of a higher level, I would never compare myself to a professional rider or to anybody that's, you know, doing it for a living. But I certainly get to hop into both worlds. And I feel like I bring my amateur head into that space, and perhaps I get to have slightly different perspective because I inhabit both spaces. I wanted to open up about something that has single-handedly been the best investment I've made within myself, and that was therapy. It might come as a surprise, or for some of you who are in therapy and know the benefits, you will know it's absolutely no surprise that so many people do see a therapist on a regular basis. If I look towards my family members, my friends, people in my inner circle, most of them do go to therapy. And if you speak to anyone who's on that journey or has been on that journey, they will tell you that it's the best investment you can make for yourself. I know that for me, there was a lot of stress I was dealing with, a lot of anxieties. I wanted clarity on certain things. I've now been in therapy for about 4 years, and it has been completely life altering. I couldn't recommend it enough to anyone. That is why I'm so excited to say that today's video is sponsored by BetterHelp. BetterHelp connects you to a licensed therapist who is trained to listen and give you helpful and unbiased advice. Starting is super simple. Just head to this site and answer a few questions. After this, BetterHelp will match you to the best suited therapist for your needs and struggles. Usually you'll be matched to a therapist within 48 hours. One of the great advantages also of BetterHelp is that you can do it pretty much from anywhere. How you choose to have your sessions is completely up to you. This can be via phone call, video chat, or messaging. If you've been hesitant about looking for a therapist, then I couldn't recommend BetterHelp more. This could be the day that you start your journey onto a better future, onto a deeper understanding of yourself and a deeper understanding of your emotions and how to manage them. If this sounds interesting to you, then head to www.betterhelp.com/Harnacke. In doing so, you guys will receive 10% off of your first month. Thank you so much, BetterHelp, for being such a loyal sponsor of this channel. I want to encourage everybody out there again, things do get better, things will get better, and with BetterHelp, you are going to be one step further. The reason why I am able to do that is because through my work, not only have I worked with the Equestrian Federation, who I truly enjoy working with, and I believe they are doing their absolute best for the sport in a very dynamic and what can be a very difficult space as well. But through 𝒋𝒐𝒍𝒐𝒘, we film with a lot of top riders. We go all over the world with it. Content creation, riders that I've formed friendship with that are at top level. So I've kind of seen so many different sides of it, and I felt like it would be nice for more people that are in my position that have experienced different stages and parts of the horse world to say something. I find it so incredibly odd how so many times when things like this happen, when something very dramatic comes out, I mean, I don't think something of this scale has come out with such a prominent rider, really. But when something comes out like this, I look to my left and to my right of the people that are in that inner circle, other top riders, people that have a voice in the community. Crickets. Nobody wants to get involved, and the reason is that it's so scary. Like with cancel culture, as prominent as it is now, for anyone to have a voice and want to share an opinion and a view, it's so scary that everyone just kind of like hides their head underneath the sand, waits it out, and then everyone pops back up like it never happened. But the conversations when you're in the inner circle are certainly not like that. People are talking about it. They're just not doing it publicly. And everybody has a view, everyone has an opinion. So today I would like to just share my view on the situation. And I really hope that the space we create here for this conversation is one of trying to understand how we can ensure that these things don't happen, rather than creating, this isn't a hate train. This isn't like a let's cancel this person, let's hate them, let's make them pay for what they did, all that kind of stuff. I mean, I'm a true believer in the fact that thinking in that way actually really stops us from evolving and growing and learning from these experiences. So let's get into it. So basically, I have known Charlotte for quite a few years, and I will say she has been someone that I have idolized completely as a rider. And the first time I ever met her was very random, actually. It was at a big show. I think it was her goodbye show with 𝒋𝒐𝒍𝒍𝒐𝒘. I don't know if I remember if it was the 𝐂𝐻𝐿 Stallion show or Jumping Amsterdam, but it was somewhere in the Netherlands, and I had gone with Yes and some friends. We had a VIP table, we were invited by the show, and we enjoyed the celebration of 𝒋𝒐𝒍𝒍𝒐's career, and we got to see 𝒋𝒑𝒍𝒍𝒐 and Charlotte, and it was truly incredible. I was quite young. I think I was like 21-ish, something like that. Not that I'm old now, but I remember that we had 1 or 2 glasses of wine, and she was hosting a meet and greet after in the arena. And for some reason, we didn't have tickets to get into this VIP, we didn't have anything, but I saw my opportunity. I saw Charlotte there in the middle of the arena, and I thought, surely if I just squeeze my way into the arena and get at the back of the line and wait my turn, I might get a chance to say hello to her and meet her. And funny enough, I did. I was the first one. I was like, to everyone on the table, I said, I'm just going to try. I'm just going to try if it's possible. If it's possible, I'll go. And they ended up all following along and coming with me. And we took a photo. And she was super, super nice. And that was kind of it. Then fast forward to maybe a year or 2 later, my social media continued to grow. I kept working for big names in the equestrian world, and that kept bringing me around a certain group of people. So just kind of through networking and meeting one person and meeting another person, you end up kind of meeting everybody. So I met 𝒂𝐎𝐿 a few times. He has been someone that I have and still idolize for a very, very long time. And he was very nice. We talked every now and then when I saw him at the shows. I ended up going to his barn just privately. It wasn't for like anything. I met 𝒋𝒑𝒍𝒍𝒐, and we've kind of maintained a friendly relationship. Every now and then we'll send each other a message for just a happy birthday, something like that. I'm by no means best friends or anything like that. But he has been someone who has always inspired me, not only in his training, but also the ethics he puts behind his trainings and how he believes horses should be managed, looked after, cared for. allowed to be horses. I think he's been such a huge voice in the space for this, and someone who's truly changed a lot of people's minds for the better. A great example to anybody in the horse world. So kind of through being around Carl sometimes, I got to know Charlotte a little bit as well. She was always very nice, very professional, and I never really established a relationship with her in terms of a friendship, but I always looked up to her in a way that I thought, this is somebody that I aspire to be like. I mean, I don't have like Olympic ambitions, but as a rider, I always saw, especially with 𝒋𝒐𝒍𝒍𝒐𝒘, such harmony in their combination. And she really touched on sentimental moments in her career with 𝒋𝒐𝒍𝒍𝒐𝒘. I can't remember which Olympic it was, but she had just won gold, and she gave her first interview and she said, I felt like 𝒋𝒍𝒍𝒐𝒘 held my hand through the whole test. And I think when someone speaks in such emotive ways, it really helps you get a better understanding of their connection with their horse and what it means to them. And her tests were so emotional to watch and a privilege to enjoy with 𝒋𝒍𝒍𝒐𝒘. And so it's someone that I've always held to a super high regard. Now, fast forward to the last couple of days, and I think the word disappointment is not even big enough to start to describe someone that I held so highly after having not only viewed the footage, but having had time to process it. There is no excuse for that kind of behavior. There is absolutely nothing that can explain it in terms of justifying it. I was really disgusted actually by it. It made me extremely sad. And you can't even really call it like a judgment error or something like that. It was completely unnecessary and should never exist. That kind of behavior is just abuse. There's no other way to call it. And I think when you really idolize someone, that's something that's really difficult to admit and be able to like tell yourself, because you have looked up to them and they felt like such an inspiration to you for such a long time. And I feel like a lot of people that are watching this can probably relate. But aside from those feelings towards the incident, I'm not going to go into the details of the incident. It's been so widely broadcast. There's no point me like going over it again. If you want to look it up, just look it up independently. I'm here to share kind of like my side of just my thoughts about the general topic at hand. It's not really just specifically about this incident, but the kind of first thing was this disappointment and sadness and just disgust for what I saw. But straight away I was like, here we go. They're all going to generalize us now, because if a person of her caliber, of her ability, of her success, if she's doing it, the general public is going to start to say that this is every rider, and this is every training session, and this is how it is. This is how they all are. And I feel like this is such a big part of the toxic nature of cancel culture, is that people make these extraordinary claims and just wipe the sheet clean in order to just be done with it. It's kind of this like mass anger that evolves into like this nothingness. So rather than like analyzing the situation and the topic at hand, they just make a blanket statement like horses shouldn't be ridden, horse riding shouldn't be an Olympic sport, and that's it. I like to always think a little bit more like glass half full. So I'm a big believer that there isn't a lot of genuinely bad people, but there is quite a big group of people that do bad things. And I think that can be from a variety of reasons, which from a point of view of someone who loves the sport and loves owning horses, having a partnership with horses, being able to ride my horses, That's the angle that I straight away try and think of. So I try and think, why did this happen? Like, how can someone that is at her level with her success feel the need or feel that it's okay to do these kind of things? And so there's like this curiosity, I guess, that I immediately have, and I try to make something of it, rather than I don't understand, I hate them, and I want to be absolutely done with them, because I feel like it'll just be a matter of time until the next person comes that's in line, that's doing the wrong thing. And in my head, I'm like, what causes what I think are good people to do bad things? Don't get me wrong, there's bad people out there that do bad things. I think I like to explain it also a little bit to people that are non-horsey in a way of like, for instance, owning a dog. There's a lot of people that do it in an amazing way, where they are their life's companions, they treat them well, all that kind of stuff. But then there's the flip side. There's a couple of people that treat dogs in such horrible ways, whether it's like puppy mills, physically abusing dogs, all that kind of stuff. Now, cancel culture would tell you basically, oh, well then this very famous person has abused a dog. Should any of us own a dog? And I think that's where those generalizations get really dangerous, rather than thinking, why are these people doing these bad things? Why are people going to these extremes and thinking that it's okay? Because I think if we can understand what causes this bad behavior, aside from ruling out bad people, then we can prevent it from happening further. And I don't think this is necessarily a conversation that I have an answer for, or like, this is how it's going to go. I think, as I said, it's very nuanced, but I do and would love to urge everybody to try and enter that mindset. And if I'm being purely honest, the very human side to me can differentiate two things, and maybe it's because I know this person a little, but there is a part of me that feels extremely, extremely sorry for what Charlotte is going through. Even though it's completely her doing, and she needs to be accountable for that, there is something so horrible about, I think, anybody having to go through this and having to possibly come to understandings and realizations and seeing how wrong they are in this way. So there is, and I've seen comments of people that feel the same way. There is a part of me that feels that. So for people that don't know the horse world, is the whole horse world like this? It's not. It simply is not. Is there bad people in the horse world? Yes. Is there good people in the horse world that do bad things? Yes. Would I say the majority of the horse world is positive? Yes, I would say that. I mean, I can confidently say that I've never done anything myself or of anyone that I know in my inner circle, so people that I truly know, that I know how they train, all that kind of stuff. I've never seen anyone that does that. So I can't generalize and say like this is how the whole horse world is, because that's not been my lived experience. I think it's a healthy reminder for all of us when these very exaggerated examples happen, to take a look at ourselves and put our ego aside and say, it's time to check in, and am I doing the right thing? Do I feel comfortable with everything I'm asking of my horse? Do I feel comfortable with how I'm managing my horse? Is what I'm doing right now in the best interest of my horse, or is it in the best interest of me? And I feel like if I look back in my life, I've asked myself this question at several points. I think the first time I really asked myself this question was when I had to fly my horse Chase from Australia to the Netherlands because I was moving. And straight away I was like, is it fair that because I want to move to the other side of the world, I am now going to fly my horse and put him in danger of all the risks that could bring, and having to have him adapt to a new way of life when he comes here? Will he like that? Will he want that? And that was a real conversation I had to have with myself. And I kind of came to the conclusion that I thought it was fair because I knew I could give him the best life possible on the other side. So that was the first time that I really had to take a hard look at, like, let's set my own wants and needs aside, because of course I want to have him. I want to have him for the rest of his life and I want to love him and all that kind of stuff. But if I put that aside, what's actually in his interests? So that's the first time I can really recall in a major way having that thought process. The second time was also with Chase, and it was a conversation I had to myself which led to his retirement. And Chase was never the horse that I would say was eager to get in the dressage arena. He was never the horse that he did everything, but he needed a lot of convincing in order to do it. He'd kind of drag his feet along the way and he was like, I can't really be bothered. But he would do it all. And eventually, I kind of asked myself, I was like, he really doesn't care. And I have tried to motivate him, and he doesn't want to do it. And it's like, I'll give you an example, like some people will love going to the gym, like they just love it. And some people absolutely hate it. And I don't think either one is right or wrong, it's just like what they prefer. And I told myself, I'm like, if I really have a horse here that's like dragging his feet, going to the arena, that like isn't bothered, like doesn't care, and that's where you have to think of the horse. I think people that are not educated in how to train a horse think, okay, I put more pressure on the horse and I'm gonna make him have no choice but to do it. Otherwise, these negative things will happen to him. And I think that is a thought process that happens to people that do bad things to horses. They try, and I think a lot of times when the last resort is some sort of abuse or violence is when you've lost control. When you no longer have an avenue or a way to do it, you resort to that, an extreme. But the resolution I came to with Chase was, I don't want to have to involve him in a space that he doesn't want to be in. Not every horse is going to be a dressage horse. Not every horse is going to be a show jumper. Not every horse is going to be a competitive Grand Prix horse. Maybe they're happy at an amateur level. Maybe they're happy at a Prix St. George level. But I think it is a conversation you need to have with yourself. And I think us as owners, when you're very involved with your horses, you know, deep down in yourself, you know these things. So I made the decision then and there that I would basically retire Chase, or half retire. And I would just take him on hacks. He always liked that. So I would just take him around on hacks, and I would give him a life in a herd, which he had never had before, because that was not a possibility until I moved to the Netherlands. And I see now that I have a really happy horse, and a horse that is living a life he enjoys. So that was one of the times where I had to put everything, all my wants and needs and my egos and my ambitions aside. And I feel like it taught me a lot, because I didn't have the feeling anymore that I was disappointed or that I was feeling like I was failing, because I just started to listen. And he's taught me actually such a big lesson in that, because that's something that I've applied in so many different ways. Even when I buy a horse. So you guys all know that when I bought 𝒋𝒏𝒆𝒚, I kind of just like fell in love with him straight away. But even in that state of lust, because I didn't know him, but in that state of absolute lust, that I was like, this is the horse I've been looking for, I straight away identified, this is probably not going to be a competition horse. And then I had to ask myself, am I okay with that? Am I okay with having a horse that I can enjoy training at home? And the answer was yes. And I feel like because I went into it having somewhat of as much of a good understanding as I could for when I bought him, it already kind of put me in a place where I was destined for success in my eyes. So I was building myself up to what I knew we could achieve and what we could do. Now, I know him now. We have been together for I think it's been about 3 years, 2 or 3 years. And things change. We change as people, horses change. He's grown up a lot. He was 6 when I bought him. He's 8 now, so I've had him 2 years. He's developed, he's matured, and now I kind of feel him ready to compete. Like, it's kind of like he's looking for it. He feels great, he's healthy, and I get this feeling where I'm like, oh, that wasn't the plan. We're somehow moving in that direction. And that's the honest conversations that I've been having with myself in order to find success. Success in my eyes, in what I want out of owning my horses. I will admit, I think we can all admit that there's been days when we are with our horses that we have either not made the best decisions by them, or maybe not been fair. But I think there's moments that I think back and I was like, was I putting my horse's best interests then? Could I have done that in a different way? I think that kind of self-reflection is not only necessary, and I hope you guys can feel that it's like, it's also just a human thing to make mistakes. So I think doing the bad thing is also making the mistake when you know it's wrong. So purposely doing something, knowing it's not going to provide a good outcome, it's not fair, it's not ethical, and doing it. But there is nothing wrong in making a mistake, and that's something that I try and advocate so much on my social media by showing the good, the bad, and the ugly. There's nothing wrong in training and experimenting and feeling like, okay, this works, this doesn't work, this was great, never do that again. As long as we're being fair to the horse, it's okay to try. I remember I was talking once to 𝒋𝒐𝒍𝒍𝒐𝒘, and she told me, Matt, every time I've won a test, a medal, I didn't learn anything. I didn't have any takeaways, any big takeaways that I could apply next time. And I think that's something that always stuck with me, because that is the process of training and evolving, learning. It's making the mistakes, being able to understand from them, grow from them, and move forward with that knowledge. So this is a little bit everywhere. I just wanted to kind of share my thoughts as a whole. I'm very scared about the place we are at right now. I feel like, I said it in another podcast episode, but I feel like we're at a turning point. I really feel like we're at a turning point. And I think people also don't understand that, like, the Olympics is, let's call it like a contract. You got a contract for a certain amount of time to be in the Olympics. When that contract's up, which to my understanding is every 2 Olympics or every 10 years, one or the other. But when that contract is up, there is a review process. And once that review process happens, there's an evaluation on, are we going to renew the contract or not? It's probably much more complicated than that, but I'm going to put it to you guys in the easiest way that I've understood it. And I fear more and more that horse riding will be taken out of the Olympics. Then it's a stepping stone down to not even being allowed to sit on a horse anymore. So that's why I'm trying to, as much as possible, try and spread some sort of, not positivity, because it's so difficult to be positive when month after month after month there is these huge disappointments and heart-wrenching moments that we have to witness. But I want to encourage our space to try and learn from this and evolve and try and get to the next stage, so we don't have to keep circulating this pond. And I hope that people can start to remove some of the hatred and bring back a little bit of humanity and objectively think of, how are we going to fix this? What is going to be the next step? I don't have that answer. I think it's going to take a lot of people in order to find that answer. But I hope that in these times that can be so dividing, that we can all come together for the love of the horses to try and come out with a good outcome, to try and find a pathway that leads us to a better future, not just for our horses, but also for us as a sport and as a community. I will never condone violence, abuse, unethical horse practices. This is something that no matter if I'm friends with someone, a complete stranger, I will treat the same no matter what. There is absolutely no space for that in the horse world and amongst horse lovers, and something does have to change. My social medias have never condoned any type of violent language. It's actually banned from my channel. This is not the space for that. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what everyone wants to contribute to this conversation. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Bye.